Welcome back to episode 2 of Runeterrors, a series where we analyze misplays made during Legends of Runeterra games, and we talk about what could have been done differently in those situations. We're finally jumping into doing episodes on specific decks. However, we're kicking things off with a deck that has kind of been relegated to being more of a brew at this point, since it was a deck that saw a bit of play on day 1 of open beta and then was very quickly put on the shelf. We're talking about the Lucian Ephemeral deck featuring Shark Chariots. This is a deck I've recently revisited and have been trying to tweak again, but the examples we're looking at today are from some older gameplay with an earlier version of the deck. There's also a bit of a sub-theme to this episode, as most of the situations we'll be looking at are focused around missed lethal opportunities. Let's hop into it. The first situation we'll be looking at is during a game against an Ionia Freljord deck featuring Karma, Anivia, and Tryndamere. I make an attack with both of my Iron Harbingers with 2 Mark of the Owls in hand. My plan was to try and bait my opponent into blocking with Karma and use one of the marks to try and take her out. I actually ended up using both so I could take out the Rime Tusk Shaman as well, since my opponent chose to block my other Harbinger with it. But let's listen in after this exchange and see what I do next. They've used 2 denies. Yeah, we can go Vanguard Redeemer here, or even Remembrance. Damn, that's actually like... No, let's go Vanguard Redeemer.
Our ancestors are watching!
We bank a spell mana. We can cast this. We'll probably have another chance to do Remembrance. So I chose to play Vanguard Redeemer over the Remembrance in my hand that got its mana cost reduced to 4 due to my Harbingers dying. However, I think Remembrance was the better play in hindsight. My opponent only had 2 mana open, so there was no chance that my Remembrance would get countered by Deny. And the way this version of the deck was built, Vanguard Redeemer can easily get activated again later on for her full value. That's not to say playing Vanguard Redeemer now was necessarily bad. It allowed me to gain 1 spell mana, like I said, and one thing I didn't show in this example was that my opponent already used Deny twice earlier. So the chance of Remembrance getting countered by a 3rd Deny was fairly low. But despite that, I would still say playing Remembrance was better. Not playing it meant I had to potentially beat a 3rd Deny later on, and in general, Remembrance is just harder to pull off in this deck than Vanguard Redeemer. This next situation is actually during the same game as the first situation we looked at, but is potentially far more impactful. I managed to develop a pretty good board again and cast On Guard so I can set up an attack for 16 damage to the Nexus, only to get blown out by Harsh Winds, which gets Senna killed and gains my opponent 6 more health. However, Lucian's Rally ability activates because of this. Let's listen in and see how I handle using Rally for the second attack. Frostbite is so annoying. I think it's the most annoying thing in the game. I'd rather deal with elusives. Like, it's really... You plan everything out and then they just blow you out with 1 card. But it's fine.
No room for doubt. Light the signal fire.
After taking out Emerald Awakener with Black Spear, I unfortunately missed an opportunity for lethal damage. Because I used On Guard earlier and the round hadn't ended yet, all of my units still had Challenger, including the Frostbitten 5-drop I had. However, what I didn't realize was that even if a unit has the Frostbite status, they can still attack and block. They'll just do 0 damage. Because I hadn't really dealt with Frostbite before this point since I started playing, I just assumed that it worked just like the freeze mechanic does in Hearthstone or various stun mechanics in other card games, in addition to reducing a unit to 0 power. I could have attacked with the 5-drop, challenged the Avarosan Sentry with it, and that would free up Lucian and Vanguard Redeemer to do 11 damage total to the Nexus, which was enough to win the game. This would at least force my opponent to have another Frostbite card to answer Lucian. This final example is from a different game against a different Ephemeral deck featuring Zed, and somewhat surprisingly, Elise. We're both pretty low after racing each other the whole game. I survived my opponent's attack though, and they play the last unknown card in their hand, a Curse Keeper. So, since Curse Keeper can't block, and my board is set up for another attack next round, I've got an opportunity to win the game with On Guard. Let's listen in and see how things play out. Yeah. Yeah, we stopped doing it a while back. We have 8 mana. We can on guard and probably win, right? I'm pretty sure. If we attack with everything on guard.
Let's end this.
We have to make sure we hit Lucian. With it though. We pull this, we pull this. We pull this, right? And then back to back them. Please tell me this works, chat. No, it didn't work. Why didn't he attack again? So, because at the time I didn't know exactly how double attack worked, I missed another chance for lethal. I thought that a double attack unit would attack twice regardless of it being blocked or not, but that's not the case. Double attack units only hit the Nexus twice if they are unblocked. It turns out this is exactly how double strike works in Magic the Gathering. If a blocker was declared, even if it dies before damage is dealt, the double attack unit will not attack twice. I was correct on pulling the right units, because Curse Keeper can't block after the on guard, and using back to back on Lucian was also correct, but I needed to use Senna to challenge a unit, not Lucian. He would have hit for 14 damage if I did, which was more than enough to win. I could have even challenged with Lucian, but that means I can't use back to back and would have to Relentless Pursuit instead. That's not as great of a play in general though, because my opponent gets a response window to play the card they drew. But in this scenario, it would have still worked out because the card turned out to be Hapless Aristocrat. And that is it for this episode of Runeterrors. If you liked the video and want to see more videos like this, feel free to give it a like below. If you want to guarantee that you don't miss out on future episodes as well as anything else I upload, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell below to stay informed. If you're into watching Legends of Runeterra live, feel free to check out my Twitch stream as well as the other places on social media I hang out at. Links to all of those are in the video description below. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.